You are listening to the Faces for the Future podcast, a podcast dedicated to exploring the stories of young creatives. My name is Jacob Deere. I'm a documentary photographer, publisher, and visual artist, and I'm going to be sitting down with creators to listen to their inspiration, interests, and process, hearing the lessons they have learned and how they broke out of the mold. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Faces for the Future podcast, episode 10. Crazy. On this episode, I am joined by, how do I describe this chap? A good friend, a very good friend of mine, and also a massive pain. But his name is George Manchip. He is a photographer. He's very early in his stages of photography, and it's really interesting to see how he's developing. He's been sort of shooting for about 2 years now, so it's a great conversation. We speak about his time in the military, also working for GWR during a pandemic, and also his project 3945. The quality of your screen to me is like, it feels like I'm looking through the 1990s. It's quite incredible.
It's pretty much the same, to be honest.
It's nothing but pixels.
And I've only just put my laptop on charge.
Oh god, this podcast started well so far.
It is going brilliant.
Oh mate, don't. This week's just been one of those weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I am like half asleep.
Yeah. Well, to anyone sort of watching or listening, George works for GWR as a nighttime train cleaner. I don't know the correct job title.
Yeah.
But yeah, George basically works all night and then ends up hanging out with me pretty much most of the day normally. So
Not by choice.
Yeah, not by choice. Well, if you've seen my Instagram story, you'll know who's the one stalking the other. But
Devoted.
But yeah, so yeah, George. Oh, my dog's going a bit mad. He literally, anytime anything goes near the front door, it's like World War II's kicking off. He's jumping out the door. He's going mad, bro.
Is it like for the postman, or was it the?
Yeah, literally anything that's near the front door. It could be a bird, and he immediately like aims for it. It's quite funny. Anyways, yeah. So I still don't understand how you actually operate, because of what my calculations, you literally only sleep like 4 hours.
Usually, but like obviously because of what's going on at the moment, I get to finish early because there's less trains out for the service and that. So I'm getting like 9 hours now.
Jesus, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know, it's bloody mad.
Yeah, but they've just introduced more trains back into service, haven't they?
Yeah, from what I've been told, I don't know if it's true or not, but like 60% of the service is back. But then they're saying to avoid the trains.
Yeah.
Which,
it's quite, a weird paradox.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely for yourself, I suppose. At least you'll have more to do when you do work.
Yeah, I mean, depends what I'm doing on the night, because every night's different, isn't it? You sort of think of that.
Do you enjoy working nights or not really?
It's interesting. Like, that's my first actual job doing nights. But yeah, it's pretty good, to be fair. Like, you got a good laugh, you got a good team, you got, just get on done with it,
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what really matters, isn't it? With any job, it's the team that you work with.
Well, yeah, it's like same as anywhere. Like, so you go work in Morrison's, you have a good team to, just get stuff done.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think when yourself was in the military. How long ago was it you were in?
God, let's go back. I think it was like 3 years ago.
Because obviously that's all about teamwork. I'm guessing it's like a completely different form of teamwork, though.
Yeah, like I think what they like to promote is like selfless commitment. So you put your mates before you, because like you never know, depending on where they are, they're like they got your back and you got theirs.
Yeah, definitely.
Because depending on what the situation is, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I could imagine it must be quite a camaraderie, I suppose.
It can be like, even though you got like every Tom, Dick and Harry in your team, you may not like one, but you just have to go for it.
Yeah, suck it up almost.
Yeah, suck it up or go home.
Yeah, true. So, what was your role in the army again? It's completely gone past my mind.
The role in the army was AS-90 as a gun. So just to like make it shorter, it's like basically like a cannon on wheels.
That sounds
on
so
tracks.
Cool at the same time as so dangerous.
Well, yeah, that's the point of it, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, it has to kind of be dangerous.
Yeah, like some people say it's a tank, but it's not. It's not a tank.
What was your sort of interest going into like that area of the army? So actually, bit of background for people listening and or watching. George was in the army way before I met him. So me and George met through Faces for the Future, which is weird actually, because the project that I shot, Faces for the Future, back in 2018, George was part of that body of work, and then we did a couple other photo shoots from that, and then somehow became really good friends. I still question that on a daily basis. Anyways,
yeah, it's debatable.
But yeah, so you had just come out of the military by the time I met you, hadn't you?
I think it was like, might have been a year after. I don't actually remember off the top of my head. I think it was whenever you did your project.
Yeah, for sure. I'm guessing you quite miss being in the army, as I can see. Well, as I know, you're into anything militaristic or anything related to the army, which we'll get onto shortly, I'm sure, a project that you're working on. But I'm guessing do you quite miss it?
In some sort of way, yeah. Like, if depending on what my situation I had done in the past, I would still be in it now. But like, I just sort of wake up every day going, "Oh, I should still be there. I should still be there." But then, time to make a change. Those 3 years, you just gotta bite the bullet, crack on, and obviously this year was supposed to change.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with everything going on, I think it's changed in some way. Maybe not the way we wanted.
Oh yeah, it's not the best.
No, definitely. Yeah, no, it's quite interesting because obviously you can see that you're interested in the army and or guns, etc. George is a big fan of airsoft and other forms of combat training, I suppose. Is that how you'd put it?
Just putting people through pain.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective. But you got into photography not that long ago.
Yeah, well, I think probably about a year and a half now, I want to say. So obviously when I did Face for the Future for you, I think since then it was just more, I might get a camera just to see what it's like. Looked on eBay, found an old school camera that wasn't actually working properly. Just went from there, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Just
Have you always had
near
an
out now.
interest in it?
Not really. Like
No.
this is no. This is like pretty new to me, and this still is.
Mm.
So, like every time I go out with the camera, it's always a learning curve,
Yeah.
and that's just motivation to drive you forward. So right, I know I took this shot, but maybe I can do this and that to improve it.
Mm. What was sort of the first thing that you really got into photographing? Because normally, you know, for most people that get into photography, I suppose this is quite generalized, but we normally, or a lot of us will normally have an interest in some form of art or have a creative element in our lives previous to picking up a camera. But for yourself, that was completely different, as far as I'm aware, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't not study about cameras and nothing at all. It's just like, here's a camera, right, let's go and do something.
Mm.
It's just more of like an interest, like something to do. Like, you know, when you just want to like make a change, and like, I'm gonna be honest, like this has made a big change to like what I do now.
Mm.
So I could be like lying down, like in between these walls, going, "Oh, what can I do today?" When
Definitely.
there's like stuff outside to just go and explore, innit?
So you found it almost a way of creatively expressing yourself,
Yeah, I want to say so. Yeah,
and like a way of sort of dealing with other demons that might be sort of bouncing around in one's head.
and that as well. Just, you know, like when you're feeling like a bit down or something, you can go out, just take the camera. It's an open mind then, isn't it? Just
Mm.
good headspace.
Mm.
Yeah, that's just, you know, like, that's why, like, if you see on my page on Instagram, where I usually go before the virus,
Yeah.
and
Because you started sort of getting interested in sort of like aeroplanes and that side of sort of photography. I know it's got its own genre, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
yeah, I mean, the aviation side is,
That's it, aviation. Got
there you
that.
go, big word of the day.
This is a big word of the day. I'll put that up on the whiteboard. Sorry, carry on.
There you go. Like with the aviation, it's I've always liked aviation ever since I was like yay high,
Hmm.
and so ever since I had the camera, it's just an excuse to go back and enjoy it again.
Yeah.
And I never knew what caught my interest in it. It's just when I first saw it, I was like, oh, they're cool. I like that,
Mm.
and it's just ever since then, you know.
So what is it with the sort of aeroplanes? Because I know for me, I barely ever went to Bristol Airport unless I was flying somewhere. But we went there, about a year ago to take pictures. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't got a clue how to take a picture of a plane taking off. I just turn everything on max and hope for the best. But I found it really calming hearing the planes. I know that sounds really strange because they're quite aggressive, the takeoff and the landing, but it's very calming to hear them. Is this, for yourself, is it similar in that it has a sort of, not a deeper meaning, but a different meaning?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because where it is, it's obviously quite an open area, and it's just, it's nice and quiet. So on a day like today, when it's nice and sunny,
Mm.
it just makes you have a good feeling.
Mm.
And plus, seeing the planes go off and that, I won't say it's kind of relaxing, but not at the same time.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I was just thinking about it then when, as yourself was sort of describing aviation photography. It's like, when I was there was like this weird emotion that I was feeling, like, of these planes, of like almost anxiety, hoping nothing would happen to the plane and them taking off or landing, but then also jealousy because it's like, I'd like to be on that plane wherever it's going. And then, yeah, it's just this weird emotion. And personally, I think I might be one in a few, but I quite like airport terminals. I don't know why. Maybe it's like my OCD in me that likes the organisation of this is the way you're walking and you go to this number. It just sort of, for me, is quite nice.
I think it's more of the atmosphere.
Could
like,
be, yeah.
Because obviously when you walk in to obviously go on holiday, it's like, all right, that's the first step of like wherever you want to go.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what it is about it. It's just interesting.
Yeah, it's really strange because for yourself, you started with a film camera as well, like a lot of us who might have been doing this, 5, 10, 15 years. I think I've been doing it closer to the latter number. But what sort of got you into film, or what, because the Canon that you bought, obviously, I've heard many grumblings about, which has never correctly or properly worked, might I say. But it's interesting that you started there.
Well, in all honesty, it was actually accidental to have the film camera.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was looking for eBay and it's like, oh, that camera looks nice.
Mm.
And like, that's before I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
So like, I won it on a bid. When it came, I was like, oh right, this ain't digital.
That's so funny, but because you literally started at the beginning, like that's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's still now on the shelf.
Mm.
Like it's gathering dust.
We will repair it at some point.
Yeah, when?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Like it's not fully working. It has its issues, but like I think my first proper photos was when I went Lake District.
Mm.
And I think that's since then it's just
sort of caught your imagination.
Yeah, like just thought, yeah, I like this.
Because your work is quite landscape based as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to say it is, like, if you class aviation as landscape.
Well, it has a landscape in it.
There you go.
Because you've been sort of working on a bit of a new project over the last sort of 6 months, haven't you? Which would be really interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to say it or I'll say it, but...
It's your project, brother. You go ahead.
There you go.
You speak your mind, let it out. This is a neutral platform.
Wow. Basically, it's called 3945, and it's all about just forgotten stuff between 1939 and 1945, which is in the name.
Mm.
So, as an everyday thing, you just walk around and you see these old random buildings in the fields and on the coastlines.
Mm.
So I just thought, why not bring it back into reality? And also what other stuff has been left, like finding old helmets, finding gas masks that's been all forgotten about.
Mm.
So that's the aim of it. It's just bringing the forgotten stuff back into the face of the people.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice because the stuff that I've seen, you've been working on the pillboxes, and the Southwest is sort of, with regards to, the world, the wars, it's kind of known for its pillboxes. And some of the stuff you've been doing is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ever since I've had an interest in World War, even from like the first and now to the second. And obviously, because having a camera, that's just right. I have a camera. There's that. Put it together.
Yeah, it's a reason to almost do it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you think your interest in the war was kind of what might have pushed you to sort of go into the army at the very beginning?
Yeah, I want to say, but I did something else before the army, which sort of drove me a bit more.
Which I don't think I know that. What's that?
Basically, I was an army cadet.
Nice.
Yeah, big up. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And ever since that, it's just, I think that's what drove me to go in the army. I mean, I know they're not trying to promote you to go to the army. It sounds weird as it is. But like, when I first got my hand on a rifle, like God help me, I thought, oh, this is cool.
Mm.
And then like doing some exercises, like I've done stuff that not probably many people have. That's out of the army.
Mm.
Like went to Buckingham Palace. Like it's
That's
all
cool.
crazy stuff. Yeah.
That's really cool. And I think, for myself, I've never. How would I put it? So my grandpa, he fought in World War Two. He was based in India as an engineer. As far as I'm aware, that's of what he told me. So I suppose I've always had an interest in his story with the war. I think, the whole landscape of it and everything that happened is something that you could spend many years digging into and trying to find stories or whatever it might be. But I think it's really interesting that yourself has almost seen this development from, being a cadet and then being in the military and now sort of documenting something about the military, or the wars, of as you said. And that sort of development is quite interesting to see. Was that sort of on purpose, or was it kind of completely just free reign?
I think it was just more free reign.
Mm.
I can't remember how it all started. I think I might have just gone to and I just saw. It might have been Breeding Down, to be honest.
Mm.
And I thought, why not make a song out of it? Just because from what I see, not many people, apart from Mark Wilson recently, who's just released The Final Stand,
which is a great project. Actually, I think I saw pictures from it.
I mean, I've pre-ordered a book for that, and it's just a bit more motivation to see. Oh, that looks good. I could do that. But then going back to Bring Down, that's, as I said, you don't see a lot of people doing anything about this recently.
Yeah, I think because some areas of it, such as Breeding Down, have been so well, what's the word? Turned into tourist destinations. Quite literally, it's part of the National Trust. It's almost lost its, potentially lost a bit of its intrigue. But where you're sort of documenting these pillboxes, like the one that you showed me, I think it was not yesterday, the day before, that was just sat in the middle of a field that looked completely untouched. That's really interesting to see these, almost these massive buildings that are archives of a certain time.
I mean, every bunker you see, it's got history in some sort of way. Even if it's not seen action, it's got history.
Yeah, it was built for a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, from what I researched, there was 26,000 of them all around the UK.
That's
and
crazy.
Now in the southwest there's 2,000.
Yeah, that's a crazy amount of pillboxes.
It's for the size of them as well.
Yeah, they're not very small.
Quite hard. Don't know how big they are, to be honest.
I'd be interested to see what the dimensions of one of those are, actually, because just be interesting to know how it was built. Because I accidentally sort of stumbled across one, which I informed George about not long after I had surgery. I live very close to quite a well-known golf course here in Burnham-on-Sea, and so when I had surgery, obviously the pandemic and everything was going on, so we were only allowed one daily exercise. So I would walk the golf course, and whilst walking along that golf course, I found just a random pillbox on the golf course. I told George about it, and then a few days later I did the same route and just carried on walking and just found this one that had just been dug up. And it was really interesting to see it, and be able to get like that close, because it wasn't like broken up, it wasn't covered in graffiti, or people hadn't pissed in it and stuff like that. It was really like it would have been at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think just when you said it to me about it, I was like, oh my god, I've got to go and see this.
Yeah.
Even like the plates that for the windows, they were still intact, and you just put it down and look inside, and it was just
It's crazy.
still the same as it was.
That's so crazy. So your photographic style has changed a lot, though, hasn't it? From sort of going from the aviation stuff and the sort of the how everybody is when they first start a new art form, whether it's for a hobby or aiming to be a profession. It's developed quite a lot. Have you found interests and inspiration from other artists?
Yeah, I mean, from what I see on social media and like what they upload is like, I think that's what it's more inspiring. It's like when I see like yours and Mickey, shout out to Mickey.
Yeah, shout out Mickey.
Mickey. And like obviously with coverless as well, like stuff that you put for coverless, and it's just, I think that's what like made me think I do too much aviation, so let's try and mix it up a little bit. I know it's probably not like the best way to say it, but yeah.
No, definitely, and I think that's the interesting thing is like, compared to, for example, like myself or Mike, who is a friend of George as well. All three of us are part of Coverless. Myself and Mike being the sort of co-founders, I suppose, and George, we still haven't found a title for him yet. We'll get around to that at some point.
Just like pure amazing. That's what it is.
Yeah, basically, that's what the contract will read.
Yeah,
George Manchip, pure amazing. Well, yeah. So I suppose the difference being is both myself and Mike, for example, have sort of been through that education system, and the way that I research it is probably similar in some contexts to Mike, how we would sit down and read books, and go and see exhibitions, etc. Whereas yourself has obviously come into this at sort of a latter part, and seeing the way that you're finding inspiration is quite interesting because it's so different.
I mean, yeah, because obviously, you and Mickey, you went to, obviously you study in Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where that was what you wanted to do, like for God knows how many years ago. Wherefore I just sort of, here's a camera, like I know nothing about it. Let's just go and see what magic stuff I can do.
Definitely, it's really interesting because like you're sort of approaching it from a very what's the word? Sort of not, as a hobby, really.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas I suppose for other photographers like myself, it's much more of a profession. So the way that the work is approached is different, but similar in the same scale. Because 3945, which obviously is your project, it's basically a documentary project in a certain context, and I think it's really interesting to see that yourself is learning all those things. Like every time we would go out and shoot together, especially a year, probably less than a year ago, you'd see improvements in the way that you would see composition and light, and those are sort of the fundamentals, of course.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like every time you go, it's always a learning curve. Just you learn, and that always that old saying, like you learn something new every day.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I'm not working and I've got the camera in my hands, depending on which one it is, just go and just teach yourself what to do.
Yeah, make some images, and I think that for me, that's what is quite inspiring. In that, where you are and where you're making images reminds me of when I was like 13, 14 years old, where it was like this complete new world and finding new images to make and new styles and all of these things. Whereas I'm well over 10 years into this now, and I know what my photographic style kind of is, and I know what I like to make. So the problem with it is I end up pigeonholing myself very easily, whereas for you it's like, I'm going to make pictures of pillboxes today, and then tomorrow I'm going to go take pictures of musicians. It's like, bro, I need to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit random, isn't it? It's just
But that's what you need, I think. I think especially when you're starting, you need to just not pigeonhole, just do everything you can.
It's more of just an open mind, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it goes with any sort of, not even creative profession. I think any profession that involves potentially learning or moving into different areas, I think you need to be interested in constantly developing.
Yeah, I mean, just is that anything you do, innit? Like, so when you go in, what you've done recently with like Lost Holidays, you know, you can work on other bits.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm recognizing that a lot more in myself, that I shoot very similar images whenever I shoot, which can be great. It can be really good, because it means consistency is great. You know, when it comes to a project like Treasure Island or Lost Holidays. But when I just want to go out and make images and let my creativity just sort of flare, I really struggle to like let go of this like style that I have, or this creative process. And speaking with yourself, whether that's through the podcast or in person, or with individuals like, you know, Jake Beckett, who was on the first episode of this podcast, where their creative process is just anything. They'll make and do anything. It's sort of reignited something in me just to go make images of anything I feel making images of.
I mean, yeah, it's just, I think I kept saying it to you, like, might have been last year. It's like, just go out, let your hair down, like have a break from what you're doing. Because I think that was during the time when you were still in Cheltenham.
Yeah, I think I was probably about halfway into shooting Treasure Island, which I'm going to be honest, completely engulfed my life. It still has. I just can't go to Port Talbot at the moment, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, you might just live there, to be honest.
Well, I am toying with it. Anyways, moving swiftly.
Oh God.
Well, no, I'm working with some people over there. Erwin Hopkins, if she listens to this, shout out to her. We're working on potentially doing like an artist residency over there once this is all cleared up, but I don't know yet. Everything is just so up in the air, and it's absolutely demoralizing some days.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not like you like go to the other end of Wales just to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna go shoot something.
Yeah, which is so frustrating because I'd love to right now.
It's like I got ideas in my head for 3945, but it's obviously what's going on now. It's just put more of a on hold.
Yeah.
Than anything.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's quite a struggle actually, having to sort of restrain oneself a little bit and understand that, you know, we can't just gallivant off. I know some people are, but that's up to them. But for me, having a bit more discipline, I'm not going to.
I can't agree to that. No.
So,
No, don't I?
Where are you going tonight, George? Anyway.
Tesco's.
You better be socially distancing, I swear to God. Anyways, so with 3945, where are you sort of hoping to go? Obviously, once all of this is moved on, like, what's the sort of, obviously, because this project is your first sort of real project, I suppose, with regards to making a collective of images, which, might I add, being a photographer who's done that many times, is really fun to watch somebody else do it for the first time. But yeah, where are you thinking of going with this?
Probably, I want to go like further inland, if you know what I mean. Because obviously, like where we are now, on the coast, it's quite simple, and so when you go further inland, there's more stuff to it. There's probably things that not many people would know. I think it's like the final defense. Because I think during that time there was something about coming into the channel and invading. I'm not overly sure. I'm still learning it. But like, obviously from the like Dorset beaches and around that region, there's so much more there than there is around here. So obviously that was more the direction that where the situation was going on.
So you're very much sort of following, not a timeline as such, but sort of this like a narrative.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool because like when you follow a narrative with regards to like making photographs, it makes putting it and piecing it together so much easier.
I mean, oh, dog.
Yeah, don't. He's. Anyways.
I mean, like, obviously, with what I'm doing now, like, at the moment, I'm just doing one certain type of pillbox when I think there's like 9 or 8 different types. But with all my work, I can like bring it into one, so they all connected together to help defend the country and also save lives in the same matter. And also just finding stuff, as I showed you recently or uploaded recently, that gas mask that's from 76 years ago.
Yeah, that gas mask was cool. If you guys want to go have a look at the images and that, they're over on George's Instagram, which will be linked below. But yeah, it's a cool project, man, and I think it's got such room to breathe, which is great, but also can be really difficult to handle because you can end up going off into so many different rabbit holes and tangents, and you end up being so far from where you actually wanted to make images physically and literally. It can be a bit tricky. So are you sort of planning on maybe doing it in stages, like making each stage of the project and like develop that fully and then move on?
Yeah, I haven't really thought that far ahead, to be honest. Obviously, so I've done like obviously as pillboxes, and then I've done like a little bit of bring down. So I might try and bring down 4 into it because that's still a part of that time.
Sort of sea defense.
Yeah, and when I say it was testing as well for like weapons.
Yeah.
So like I can try and dig into stuff about that and bring it back up.
I think it's really cool because like normally when people make projects, they might have a set deadline. If they're studying, they have, you know, a deadline that has to be met, or, you know, a deadline that one puts in their mind. And I think for yourself, you don't really have a deadline. You're just sort of making, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just something on the side of like work, and also I do have an aim in mind where I want to finish it, but I can't see it happening this year.
No, and I think that's great because there's no need to rush it. It's a project that, you know, has such legs and room to breathe, especially as you're only sort of really starting out in photography a year, 2 years in. You know, that's not a long period of time to be sort of making images. Obviously, you can learn a lot in 2 years. Christ, I learned a lot. But I think it would be really sort of interesting to just let the project breathe and sort of just roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing now, to be fair. I'm not going every day. I'm not going out every day just to try and get it done quick as possible, where I can take one day and go, right, done this, done that, come back, do what I need to do, research some more, find something new another day in enough time I've got spare.
No, that's cool, man. That's so cool. And it's cool to see you like sort of being focused on something other than, you know, work or, you know, future endeavors, as we'll put it for now, which is really interesting for me, you know, as a friend of yours, to see that you're sort of still working on things outside of those other elements.
Yeah, I mean, can't be boring now, can't we?
That is very true. We won't go on to the topic of mountain bikes or any of that because we don't have enough hours in the day, I don't think. But
send it.
Yes. George seems to think I should buy a mountain bike. I'm probably not going to because I know the likelihood is I'm going to crash into a tree at full speed. And right now I can't afford another concussion.
Yeah, you can do
no,
fine.
No, George, I cannot afford another concussion.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
No, I will not buy a mountain. Do you want to go buy a mountain bike?
Just bought one.
Buy me one. We can go buy one for me.
No.
Okay, cool. Anyways, that's probably going to be it for the podcast today, guys. So where can people find your work? It's all on social media, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only Instagram. It's George Manchip Photography, all in one.
Perfect.
It's a bit of an
eye melter. But
yeah.
Also to anyone listening and or watching, whether it's on Instagram TV, Spotify or Anchor, it will be linked down below if you want to go see George's work. Now, I appreciate you coming on, man, and being episode 10. I said to the people who listen to this podcast and or watch my Instagram, they would know who the guest of episode 10 is, because you make frequent appearances on my social medias. But no, I appreciate it, man, and sort of sharing a little bit about 3945 and other things that you're sort of chasing at the moment.
That's no worries.
Cool, man. Well, look, take care. Have a good couple of days, because you're off work for a little bit now, I believe.
3 days.
Oh, Christ, lucky for
some.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, have a good couple of days off, and I'm sure we'll see each other very soon, no doubt, for another coffee in the park.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah. Anyway, dude, take care.
Individual, man.
Later, man. Bye.
Bye.
So that is it for episode 10 of the Faces for the Future podcast. I still can't believe we've made it to 10 episodes. What do you guys think so far? Are you enjoying these episodes? I want to send a huge thank you out to George for being on this episode and sharing some interesting stories about being in the military and his project 3945. And also to you guys. You guys deserve a huge thank you, don't you agree? For watching and or listening to this podcast. It's so good to know that people are enjoying this podcast with the feedback that I've had. So thank you for letting me know. If you want to go check out George's work, head over to Instagram. Links are down below to George's Instagram page where you can see his project. If you could share some love and also spread the message, that would be fantastic. And whilst you're there, if you could follow us on Instagram at FFTF Podcast, we would hugely appreciate it. As I said, I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast, and we'll be back very soon with episode 11.